the night, Santa never left. Snow began falling 3 days before Christmas, the kind that didn't drift softly but pressed down, thick and relentless, muffling the town of Briar Hollow into something hushed and watchful. By Christmas Eve, the streets were buried, the old lampposts glowing weakly through white curtains, and the air felt heavier than winter should allow, as if something unseen was leaning close, listening. Briar Hollow had always loved Christmas. Too much, some said. Every house glittered with lights, every porch bore wreaths and plastic reindeer, and every window glowed with warmth meant to push back the cold. But warmth could be staged, smiles could be rehearsed, and traditions, when repeated long enough, could turn rotten. No one remembered who started the legend, only that everyone knew it. If you hear footsteps on your roof after midnight, if the bells don't sound right, don't look up the chimney. Evan Carter had grown up hearing the whispers, but like most adults, he dismissed them as stories told to frighten children into obedience. Now 32, recently divorced and back in his childhood home to care for his ailing mother, Evan had little patience for folklore. Reality had proven far more cruel than fairy tales. The house creaked constantly, old wood shifting beneath snow and ice. Evan sat alone in the living room on Christmas Eve, staring at the tree his mother insisted they decorate, even though she was too weak to leave her bed upstairs. The ornaments were the same ones from his childhood: hand-painted baubles, chipped angels, a crooked star that never quite stayed upright. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the clock ticked loudly. His mother, Margaret Carter, had warned him that morning. "Lock the chimney," she whispered from her bed, eyes sunken but sharp. "We always did." Evan laughed gently, assuming delirium. "Mom, chimneys don't need locks." "They do here," she insisted. "After midnight, promise me." He promised, meaning to humor her, nothing more, but he didn't do it. At 11:47 p.m., the power flickered. At 11:53, the house fell silent. No wind, no ticking clock, no hum of electricity. And at exactly midnight, Evan heard it. A thump, not loud, not crashing, just deliberate. From above, Evan froze, every nerve igniting at once. Another sound followed, scraping, slow, heavy, as if something massive was shifting its weight across the roof tiles. Snow slid off in soft avalanches outside the window. His first thought was a fallen branch. His second was an animal. His third thought, unwanted, uninvited, was the story. "If you hear footsteps on your roof after midnight..." The scraping moved closer to the chimney. The fireplace sat cold, dark, and unused. Evan stared at it, heart pounding, waiting for logic to assert itself. Then came the bells, not cheerful jingle bells. These sounded wrong, deep, uneven, clanking like rusted metal dragged through bone. The bells rang once, twice, 3 times, then stopped. The smell came next. Not smoke, rot. A thick, sweet stench of decay that seeped into the room, curling around the tree, wilting pine needles instantly. Evan gagged, backing away as black soot began trickling from the chimney like blood. Something shifted inside. Something too large. Upstairs, Margaret screamed. The sound snapped Evan into motion. He ran for the staircase, taking the steps 2 at a time, the smell growing stronger with every breath. "Mom!" he shouted. Her door was open. Her bed was empty. The window was wide open, snow blowing in, and carved into the frost on the glass were 3 words: "He remembers you." Evan spun, panic boiling into terror. Behind him, the The floorboards groaned. A shadow stretched along the hallway wall, tall, impossibly tall, crowned with antlers that scraped the ceiling. The bells rang again. Closer. He ran. Down the stairs, through the living room, slipping on pine needles and fallen ornaments. The tree lights flickered back on, glowing a sickly yellow, illuminating footprints in the soot-stained carpet. Not boots, hooves. The chimney cracked open with a wet, grinding sound. And Santa Claus pulled himself out. He was wrong, so wrong. His red suit was stitched from flayed fabric, leather that still bore scars and tattoos. His beard was matted with blood, his eyes black pits reflecting nothing. Antlers twisted from his skull, adorned with bones and broken toys. His sack dragged behind him, writhing as if alive. When he smiled, rows of uneven teeth clicked together like chimes. "Merry Christmas, Evan," he said, voice layered with dozens of whispers. Evan backed toward the door, fumbling for the handle. I don't believe in you," he stammered. The thing laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "Oh," it said softly, "but I believe in you." The sack split open. Hands reached out. Small hands, children's hands, blue, frostbitten, clawing at the air, mouths sewn shut with red thread. Their eyes pleaded silently as they were dragged back inside. "You left," Santa hissed. "You forgot. You broke the promise." Memories flooded Evan's mind, memories he'd buried deep. The night he'd laughed when the bells rang, the night his little sister went missing, the night his parents locked the chimney. Too late. "You were supposed to watch," Santa growled. "You were the eldest." Evan screamed as the creature lunged. He woke on the floor, gasping, the house silent once more. Morning light streamed through the windows. The tree stood untouched, the chimney intact. For a moment, Evan thought it had been a nightmare. Then he noticed the footprints leading upstairs. Margaret's room was empty, her bed neatly made, no sign she had ever been there. On her nightstand sat a single gift, wrapped in yellowed paper, tied with twine. From Santa hands shaking, Evan opened it. Inside was a small bell, rusted, cracked, stained dark with age. Beneath it lay a note, written in careful script. Every year, a child must be given. Every year, the promise must be kept. Now it's your turn to remember. The bell rang once. Outside on the roof, footsteps began again. By noon, the snow had stopped. Neighbors gathered, not confused by the silence of the Carter house. Police found the front door open, the tree still glowing, presents untouched. They found Evan in the chimney, twisted, frozen, smiling. That Christmas, a child from Briar Hollow went missing, and every Christmas after that, the bells were heard again. Always after midnight, always wrong. So if you hear footsteps on your roof, if the bells don't sound right, don't look up the chimney, because Santa never left. The night, Santa stopped knocking. Christmas Eve was supposed to be quiet. That was the only thing I wanted that year. Quiet. No laughter, no music, no forced cheer. Just silence to bury the grief that had been rotting inside me since my daughter died. Snow pressed softly against the windows like the world trying not to wake me. The house smelled of pine and dust, and old memories I hadn't touched in years. I hadn't put up decorations, no lights, no ornaments, just the tree, bare, unlit, standing in the corner like a dead thing I forgot to throw away. People say grief fades. They lie. It just changes shape. It becomes something that watches you from dark corners and waits for nights like this. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second a hammer strike inside my skull. 11:57 p.m. That's when I heard it. A knock, not loud, not urgent. Just 3 slow taps. I froze. No one comes by on Christmas Eve. Not anymore. Not after what happened. My neighbors knew better. My family had stopped calling years ago. And yet, there it was again. 3 taps, perfectly spaced. I didn't move. I waited for footsteps, for laughter, for someone to call my name. None came, only breathing mine, and the low hum of the house settling around me. Then the knock came again, closer, not louder, but heavier, as if whatever stood outside had leaned its full weight against the door. I stood slowly, my joints aching like the house itself was resisting the movement. When I reached the door, the cold bled through the wood. My hand hovered over the handle. Every instinct screamed at me not to open it. I opened it anyway. Snow fell thick and silent, blanketing the world beyond my porch. Standing there was a man in a red suit. Not a costume, a suit. The fabric looked old, darkened with stains that weren't from dirt. The white fur trim was matted and yellowed, clotted in places like it had been soaked and dried too many times. His boots were massive, cracked leather slick with ice. And his face. His beard was long and gray, hanging in stiff, uneven clumps. His skin sagged unnaturally, stretched tight over sharp bones. His eyes were sunken pits of black, reflecting nothing. Not the porch light, not the snow, not me. "Merry Christmas," he said. His voice sounded like a sack of wet gravel dragged across concrete. I couldn't speak. My throat locked. I told myself it was a prank, a sick one, but still human. Everything can be explained if you try hard enough. "I'm not interested," I finally said. "Go away." He smiled. His teeth were too many. "I don't come for interest," he said. "I come for what's owed." The cold intensified. Frost crawled across the inside of the doorframe. I tried to shut the door, but it wouldn't move. Something heavy pressed from the other side. "I didn't call you," I said. "I don't celebrate." That's never stopped me before. He stepped forward. The threshold cracked beneath his weight. Snow didn't fall from him. It crawled, sliding upward against gravity, clinging to his clothes like it wanted to be close to him. "You had a child?" he said casually. My heart slammed against my ribs. "She was very good," he continued. "Very quiet at the end." I screamed and shoved him. My hands passed through his coat like it was smoke wrapped around something solid. He didn't move. Instead, he reached into his sack. The bag was enormous, stitched from something dark and leathery that pulsed faintly, as if breathing. "You don't bring gifts," I said. "You take them?" He nodded. "Yes." The sack opened on its own. Inside I saw limbs, small ones, wrapped in paper soaked through with something black and sticky. I saw teeth, tiny shoes, tufts of hair tied with ribbons. I fell to my knees. "She screamed for you," he said gently. "Every night." The walls began to groan. The house trembled like it was being shaken from the outside. From the chimney came a scraping sound, slow, deliberate. Something was coming down. "You didn't listen," he said. "So now, you get to hear." The scraping grew louder, skin dragged against brick, bones bent the wrong way. A head emerged from the fireplace, burned, blackened, smiling wide with broken teeth. It wore my daughter's face. "Daddy," it whispered. I tried to crawl away, but hands burst from the floorboards, charred, child-sized, grabbing my ankles, my wrists, pulling me toward the fire. "She stays," Santa said. "You come with me." The sack swallowed me whole. Inside was darkness, screaming, endless Christmas music playing backward. Children pressed against me from all sides, their bodies soft and wrong, whispering carols through ruined throats. When morning came, the house was empty. No footprints, no fire, just a tree in the corner, decorated now with ornaments that blinked and breathed softly. If you hear knocking on Christmas Eve, don't answer. He doesn't knock twice.